Well, when
Well,
you said go live, you meant it. You meant go live. You was hitting the
when
button.
I say I'm fixing to pull the trigger or swing, I mean it.
Well, what if I'm not ready?
Hell, just tough. Hey, I just came driving back all the way from the Cypress District meeting, made it to the house just in time to get me a cup. Well, that's advertising Chains of Barbecue. To get me a cup of sweet iced tea. Well, I'm advertising for Shane. Well, actually, I like Shane, all right. But, that's Philip's brother and all. But anyway, let me get rid of this Windows XP music. There we go. That's better. So, anyway, I just made it back from a marathon meeting at the Cypress District. It went on like, I think 2 hours and 15 minutes. I don't even have the video off my iPad yet, so I don't have any of it to show. I took a couple of notes and I'll try to do some of it from memory, but we'll talk about it.
Well, what do you mean a marathon meeting at the Cypress District? I didn't see a whole lot on there. It was basically rubber stamping Manchac to fleece everybody on the lakes. Was it? I
Well,
mean, what?
we'll talk about it in depth a little more here after the break and all that, but I got to give Rodney credit, full disclosure. Rodney's a client of mine. I do the tech work up at Mosley's Tire, and I buy lots of tire. Well, not lots, but anyway, I buy all my tires from him. So full disclosure there, but I got to give him credit. Both he and Kelly Long,
Kelly
well,
Long, really?
they were engaging in dialogue with folks, and Gary Weiss was, of course, his usual complete ass of a self, of a person, but Philip, not well. Philip was there too, but Rodney and Kelly were actually engaging in dialogue, with people and letting people talk. So it went on. Of course, Robert Barry was there. He gave the longest speech of all. His was, I think,
Oh,
longer than
good
Rutten.
gosh. I got
Yeah,
to
it
hear
was long.
about that.
His was longer than Ruttenbuck's. So anyway, that's pretty much the very brief summary of the Cypress meeting. Again, I took a couple of notes. We'll hit a couple of the points. I'll try to jog some of it from memory. We'll definitely be releasing, the video of it and all that sort of thing over the next couple of days. So anyway.
Well, hey, I decided before we go to the break, I
Mm-hmm.
decided we're going to name this show Legal Plunder.
Legal plunder. Oh. You
Now, I've
don't like
used that term.
show the cards. Let me change this. Hold on. We can change on the fly.
Well, yeah, legal plunder. Well,
Look at
show the
that.
cards because we didn't get prepared for show the cards. But the truth of the matter is this is going to be a show where we kind of talk about I don't know. I think the wider picture of politics, and especially as it relates to our local politics, from the Cypress District to the city of Bossier, nationally, statewide. Because hey, a lot of people may not have realized it, but today was qualifying. Um,
Ah, yes.
you had people qualifying all across the state, here locally, police jury, you had the sheriff, qualify. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, we need to talk about that. And, of course, the term limits. How could we not talk about term limits in Bossier City? And I think, wasn't that the premise for the name of the show, Show the Cards?
why, yes. Yes, it was, Mr. Duke Lowry. However, would you know that?
Well, I mean, who's in, who's out?
Yeah, well, I'll let you go down that rabbit hole as far as you're able to go, and I'll just tag along for the color commentary. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, why don't we go to the break? And then when we come back, let's see what we can do to make some people mad.
I would agree. That's what we do pretty much every Tuesday night for over 164 episodes. Why stop now?
Why hold back?
All right, here we go, folks. Y'all know the drill. This will give you about 3 minutes to grab you some popcorn and a stiff drink. Let everybody get their notifications. Y'all tag folks, text folks, let them know we're online. Look, we got a few notes. Duke was able to get a few notes ready, but pretty much we're going to be flying off the cuff, and we'll just see where the show ends up. We will be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating. So I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
And aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
They're making a little bit of progress, but I would definitely have to give the race to Caddo Parish right now.
I don't know. Is there anybody from Plain Dealing watching, you think?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Did you or did you not requisition some money to fight against this or for it?
We hired a lobbyist, and it cost us $15,000. We were opposed to HB 630.
So for this week, folks, the cockroach of the week, according to Bossier Watch and Duke Lowry and Rex Moncrief, is
Raymond Cruz legislative assistant, Allie Feaster Smith. Thank you, Allie. Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. No way. It was not David. You know it wasn't David Montgomery. David ain't going to jump off in there with Chris. He ain't going to do it. He'd as soon spit on him as he would even look at him. Man, this is a Mickey D's Krispy Kreme week. Didn't you know? Who's paying y'all? And if you're driving on the roads, are you safe?
It's on the road, yeah.
Well, I know you're on the road, but I mean, is this all folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. Yeah, that's only going to cause more division that he claims he doesn't want to cause. And it's only going to cause more suspicion. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Coleman Project, the Walker Place deal, through conscious, shocking action. The purpose of their actions was to stop plaintiffs, being the Ewell, Coleman, and associated groups not, from developing Walker Place. But here's the key thing, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr.
You hit the button? Does that mean that people are seeing us sitting here talking and chatting?
In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. So, I do owe your wife, your lovely bride, a little bit of an apology. I need to change that intro. But I want to point out that although y'all have been in business for 25 years, that's technically over 23. So, the ad is still correct.
You can have that argument with her.
Now, let's discuss this. So, I'm sure y'all have had the conversation. Have y'all actually gotten any, been able to write any loans or do the business that y'all normally do? Or have we sent business to your competitors because she is associated with the show by extension and virtue of you?
There is no doubt we have helped our competitors, because of this show. No doubt.
Right. At least we're helping somebody.
We're helping somebody, but we're not helping us. We talked about it the other day, and there is a lot of people that, they don't want to bring any politics. They're scared. Right. They're scared to be associated with, I'm going to say the way I describe it, the truth tellers or the people, because I think that's what we are. I mean, we invite people, if we're not telling the truth, say we're not telling the truth. You know, and let's debate it. Let's have it out there. I mean, just today, a politician was on the phone with me, and they said, they said, I don't always agree with you, and I don't think you're always right. It says, but what I do think, I think you and Rex, I think y'all are truth tellers. I think y'all seek the truth, and that is why you do what you do. It's not that you're out to intentionally try to cause harm or to hurt anybody, but you're trying to seek the truth. And he said, with that, I don't have a problem with you being wrong about something,
Right.
and
Look, we don't always agree with each other, and you and I have to try to correct each other sometimes too. But you bring up a good point. Is that was the whole basis for us starting the show. It's not to go out and necessarily slam each other. I mean, we make no bones about it. We're amateur journalists. This is a biased show. We absolutely inject our opinions all over the place. But we keep it, it's like we always say, it has to have a tie into politics. Look, the fact of the matter is, I've been all over Walt Bigby as an example. I like Walt personally. He's always been super nice to me, and, so it's not anything personal with him. Now, some folks it is personal, and we pretty much say that, but I think you're right. And the politician that you spoke to is right, that at least we're talking about the stuff that some folks are afraid to talk about, but everybody kind of knows about and talks about behind closed doors. We try to bring that stuff up.
Everybody talks about it behind closed doors, but they just won't say it in public,
Right.
for whatever reason, for fear. And, I would say it's justifiably so. We could cite cases, where, people have been retaliated against. There is some validity to that. But hey, trying to make a difference. There is a consequence for trying to make a difference. And one of those is old Acadiana Mortgage ain't getting home loans because of bossierwatch.
Well, of course, in my case, and we'll get on with the actual show and talk about, valid political stuff. But in my case, I mean, I'm an independent IT guy. I've been, blessed to have quite a few clients, and I have a wide, very diverse clientele. And, I've always been the type of guy that even with tech stuff, I don't tell people what they want to hear. I'm not just a yes man. I'll tell you, well, the way you're doing it's completely wrong, and why did you do it this way? You need to do it this way.
I'll
And
acknowledge that. And it took me, since knowing you, 15 to 20 years to finally swap over to an Apple.
yeah, but see, it
I
worked.
agree.
I don't own any stock in Apple. I run a Mac for all this stuff and the creative stuff and all that because it just works. I mean, there's rarely I have an instance with my Mac.
Look, but to the 70 people watching, I'm going to tell you something. Rex told me one time, he says, "Oh, I love Microsoft." He's like, "I love Microsoft. I'm glad people use Microsoft." He's like, "That's what keeps me in business. I love it."
Yeah, you're absolutely
says,
right.
But if you don't want any problems, go with Apple.
Yeah. And, while they're not perfect, we have relatively few problems, especially, when I switched to the new one about a year and a half ago, once we started, getting in the show a couple of months and all that, and went with a new processor, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the show's been, except the times you've tried to get us kicked off by playing copyrighted content, the show's been relatively stable.
That's right. Well,
all right.
With that said, hey, let's shout out to a few folks. I mean, there's only a few folks that I see have posted to let us know they're here. First and foremost, Captain Chief George Bryce. Hello, George. Glad you're here. Ann Price, see you're here. Barry Butler. Hello, Barry. Mike Cummings. Glad to see you're here. And
He's here.
Terry Ferrier put a big old love mark, a heart mark.
Ooh,
appreciate that.
Yeah. And of course, our good friend Mr. Haygood is here. So, what are we going to, I mean, I've got stuff to talk about, like I said, before we did the break and the intro and all that. I've got some stuff to talk about the Cypress District, but what else are we going to talk about? I'm literally off the cuff. I hadn't had time to put any notes together.
Well,
What are we going to talk about?
well, so look, today is we're into another election cycle, and today, here we are. Candidates are qualifying for office, and a lot of folks may or may not know who's running. They may or may not pay attention. I mean, if you're watching this show, 9 times out of 10, you're paying attention to politics, and we appreciate y'all paying attention. That says that you're taking an interest in what's going on in your community, your state. I mean, we appreciate that, and that's kind of where we're focused on and what we're talking about, and just kind of going through the races here. No surprise. I mean, a few surprises. A lot of names you don't recognize, but it's like when people run for president. I mean, there's all these freaking names of people. I mean, even Kanye West the last time around, he signed up to run for president.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't he change his name to Yee or something crazy? I don't know. Before he got ousted and cancel cultured.
Well, he did, but Twitter is X now. So I mean,
yeah.
I mean, look, you want to change your name and do something else the next day, whatever, So, but there's some names on here that for governor: Hunter Lundy, he's done signed in. John Schroeder, Secretary of the Treasury, fine individual. We have an amazing quote in our intro there. If you watched it and you paid attention to it and tolerated it, probably one of the best quotes we may have had on this show ever. John Schroeder is the best of people.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. He's the little bit that I know and have talked to him seems to be a pretty straight shooter, and his quotes were right on. I can't remember. I should have it in my notes what show that was, but I would recommend folks go back and watch that show.
Yeah, I mean that guy is top shelf, and he's been in private business. He was a Treasury Secretary, and you know he knows that he's running against Behemoth and Jeff Landry, and I don't know. I just but before we go through all these races, let me preface all this by saying this. So Rex, I can't say who, but a political insider told me that it's going to be important for people to watch the qualifications this year because it's their understanding that on the first day there's going to be a lot of people qualify for certain offices, and then by the second and third day they will have changed their qualifications for other offices.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
So, and we're not just talking about statewide, we're talking about locally. So,
well, but let's define for folks who may be watching and not know, because we got well north of 70 people watching now. What does qualifying mean?
well, qualifying is Bo letting me know that somebody is entering the house, in which we haven't had Bo join the show in quite a while. He now has a manly voice. But qualifying means that you went down to, your courthouse in your parish or whatever, and you signed the dotted line to say, hey, my name is so-and-so, and I'm running for this office, and you qualified to run. They enter your information in the computer, and bam, you're on the ticket. You're running.
Good enough. Good enough. All right. Just for, like I said, just for those folks that may or may not know exactly what qualifying is. Basically, you pay your fee, go down to the courthouse, fill out the form, say you're running for this race or whatever it is, and bam.
Yeah. So governor's race, as of today, all you have is, the primary people. I mean, Hunter Lundy, I've heard of Hunter Lundy running as an independent, John Schroeder as a Republican, and you have Sean Wilson, which is going to be the Democrat, candidate in that race. Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser, primary one there. Secretary of State. Now, this one is where things get kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
You got Mike Francis Drilling Fluids. A lot of people may know FDF. former Republican Party chairman, longtime, Republican Party activist, actually a really great guy, successful businessman. He is said to have been recruited by all the registrar of voters across the state of Louisiana.
That's interesting.
And, he is said to be endorsing. Now, I heard him speak last night. The Republican Parish Executive Committee had a meeting, and I heard him speak. And I think he is in favor of another machine that I would point out in multiple states have had some flaws discovered and pointed out, and he's in favor of that. You have Nancy Landry. She currently works in the office of the Secretary of State with Kyle Ardoin. She's a former state representative. She's qualified. She's in the race. And you've got Clay Schexnayder, who was a Speaker of the House. And I'm just going to give my personal opinion on that one. There's your rhino in the race. And that's based off of the way he acted in the state legislature. I mean, I'm not saying that makes you a bad person, but the point is you don't say you're a Republican and you don't say you're a conservative and you don't say that you're limited government and then you vote and act like a moderate or a Democrat. Either you're pregnant or you're not. And I'm sorry, he's a moderate. And then you have Brandon Trosclair. Brandon Trosclair, who we've had on the show. Brandon Trosclair is the guy that says, paper ballots, the machines are flawed. The election in 2020 were stolen. So therein makes me want to change the name of the show, to Legal Plunder, because I have to ask. I think we have a natural litmus test for everybody watching this show tonight. So we're up to about 80 people, and I want to do a personal test for everybody watching. And Rex, you and I can do it right now, and I'll be the first one to go. And I want everybody to answer this question. You ain't got to say it out loud. If you feel inclined to post it in the notes, feel free to post it in the notes. But here's the question, and here's the litmus test. Do you think there was fraud in the election of 2020? Either you do or you do not. I say, yes, 100%, there was fraud.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
We may disagree on the extensiveness of it, but I would agree because there always is. There's always a certain amount. And maybe in the 2020 election, I'll also probably agree with you. And, we kind of debated this before, that there was probably a little more shenanigans than normal.
That's right. So if you say that there was no fraud, and you say that you're a limited government person, I mean, can you still say you're a conservative? Can you still say that you're limited government when you deny that there was fraud? And you say, well, how can you make that determination? Well, the question is what have you done to determine whether there was or whether there was not fraud? Have you done any homework? Have you done any studying? What have you done to make the determination whether there was or whether there wasn't? And if you're an elected official, did you do any work to study the issue? If you have a responsibility of representing the public, did you do any homework to study the issue to make yourself educated and knowledgeable on whether there was or was not fraud and whether it was valid? Because we all know it's been proven in a court of law, thanks to Liz Morrell and the AG's office, Liz Morrell, the Solicitor General, and the AG's office, Missouri v. Biden. We all know that it's been proven that the government, conspired with social media to silence any voices who said during those days that there was election fraud. We already know that.
Well, and let me raise the point that my contention has always been, um, that it is not a violation of free speech or silencing free speech if a private company wants to shut you down on their platform because it's private. I mean, if I don't like it, I can go out and create my own platform and try to compete with them. But where Liz answered the question was proof that there was government involvement in suppression of free speech through the social media platforms. And that I do absolutely take an issue with. So
That's right. So, but if you haven't done your homework as an individual, you say there hasn't been any fraud, and you've done no homework to study the issue, and especially if you're an elected official and you take the position that I'm just going to go with the easiest path and what some people tell me is the best thing to do in regards to elections, I don't think that you're worthy of being elected. I don't think that. I don't know, and I have to question your credentials as to whether or not uh, you even identify as being a limited government person. And I hate to say, I'm going to say this. I'm going to jump off here and say, people are probably thinking, oh, he's fixing to say Republicans is what he's fixing to say, promote Republicans and compare to Republican. No, I'm not. That is not what I'm saying at all. Because in fact, I'm actually throwing the rock probably at Republicans more so than Democrats. Um, so
well, all right. So, and I've said this before, and I don't have my own quote right in front of me, but it's a simple thing for me. I mean, I'm a one issue guy on most things. I mean, my litmus test is where do you stand on the Second Amendment? Again, to use the phrase, you're either pregnant or you're not with the Second Amendment, in my consideration or in my opinion. But here's the litmus test. You just ask somebody when they say they're conservative to define what that actually means. And I can do it in basically 1 to 2 sentences. I consider someone who is conservative to be someone who is averse to further intrusions of the federal government or any government, for that matter, into our lives. It's that boils it down. I don't think that there shouldn't be any government because I like to drive up and down the roads and streets. I'm too lazy to ride a horse.
Okay, well, government in general. So for all of you watching, here's another side of this equation. I'm getting to a point here. Y'all bear with me, and I'm testing all of you, and I hate to say testing you, but I'm pushing you, and I'm trying to make you think about this a little bit. So in this election cycle, there are campaigns right now they've already been waging in our communities in Bossier Parish, and we're talking about that our district there hasn't been enough money come home to our district, right? Have we not heard those arguments?
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's all over the place.
So for all of you watching, what do you believe? Do you believe that it's the job of your legislator to go to Baton Rouge and to, do whatever it takes to bring home enough bacon to the district? Is that what their primary responsibility is, to go to bring home the money? That's why you elect them, is who you think is the best person to go and bring home the bacon.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because if you're in favor of that at your core, then that means you violate my definition of a conservative. Because where does that money come from? I mean, it doesn't, although we think it doesn't really come from a magical printing press. It comes from the sweat and tears and backs of all the tax-paying public. And, arguably they do have printing presses on the federal level, but my point is, you're absolutely right. What I would encourage everybody to do is think sincerely, what exactly does that mean? Now, you can make the argument that, oh, well, the money's getting allocated, we're getting taxed anyway, so we may as well, get it while the getting's good. That's an
Yeah,
argument that you hear.
that's exactly right. So, I mean, I have to ask everybody, what is I want to see the comments blow up. I want to see, what do y'all think? Do y'all think that our legislators should be going to Baton Rouge to bring home the bacon? Is that one, the factor that you consider when you vote for somebody, is that you're wanting them to go home and to bring home the bacon?
Well,
Or do you want them to go down there and break the sausage factory from making the bacon?
yeah, which arguably means, we don't get the things we normally get that the government, or benevolent governmental overlords
So,
provide for us. Let me point out one thing. So,
well, well,
or go ahead, then I'll make my
well,
point.
well, well, I was just going to say, everybody's not going to comment on that one.
Right.
Everybody's
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, he's setting a trap here. I'm not going to say what I think here. We're just going to let this roll out here, and we're going to see where they go. All right, go ahead, Rex.
So you also hear the argument, and look, Ryan Gaddy's one of the best at making this argument all the time. Like in almost every conversation he and I have, he says, well, the 10-to-1 matching federal dollars, or 3-to-1, or 5-to-1, or whatever it may be. So if they bring home the bacon from Baton Rouge at this amount, then there's a multiplier effect by this amount. Well, it may be true. But then my counter argument to that is, well, where the hell do you think they're getting the federal tax dollars from? So it makes you think. You got to think down to your core, because everybody says that they're anti-government, or the government's too big and blah blah blah, and taxes is too much, till their pet project doesn't get funded.
Exactly, which is exactly where I'm fixing to go. So while we're clicking along 80 to 90 people, while I know you guys, you heard my question, you answered it in your head, and I'm going to just say that I think the overwhelming majority of people here who are watching the show, you said, no, it's not their job to go bring home the bacon. You agree morally and in your heart, that it's not right, that's not what it's about. It shouldn't be about that we're sending them to Baton Rouge, and their job and their role is to bring home the bacon. That's not the way it should be. That's the way it is, but that's not the way it should be. But let me pose a question, and you just pointed it out, Rex. How's everybody feel about tots?
Exactly. We've
I'm just
discussed this once before. All right.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So how does everybody feel about tops? If you're against bringing home the bacon, I'm just wondering how you feel about tops. Do you think that's making bacon? I'm I'm sorry. I told y'all we were going to make people mad tonight, and I'm doing my damnedest to make you mad. And here's the thing: this isn't a Republican or a Democrat thing. In fact, I was told a story just yesterday about a Republican senator down in the legislature who got all mad about somebody making an attempt to, roll back tops, to reel it in because it's so out of control and so much money going out. And, they said, well, why are you mad about trying to rein in government spending and rein that in? And he said, well, it's the only thing I get out of government for Louisiana. That's what the senator says. It's the only thing I get.
Well, I won't get too far off on my tops bandwagon tonight, but yeah, I mean, and yeah, you're right. This is going to piss a bunch of people off. But yeah, Tops is the biggest pork barrel trough thing there is.
So if you're a limited government person, do you really know what it is to be limited government? Do you really know what it means to want less government? And this trickles down into your local government, the Cypress district, Bossier City, the police jury, and what your expectations of government are in the first place. I mean, it's election time right now. It's time for us to be having that introspection on what we expect out of government. Rex, I know you've heard me say this, but in the past, and I've told elected officials, I said, look, this is the one rule you need to keep in mind. The first and most important responsibility of government is the safety and defense of its citizens. That's it. That's your primary role.
Right.
Anything else is secondary. Nothing else is a priority. That is why, the founders in the first place even formed a government was to defend the citizens.
Well,
It wasn't about taking taxpayer dollars to fund higher education and prop up a state college in Baton Rouge to indoctrinate kids. No,
look,
that was not it.
I agree with you, but let me point out something. That's federal, but we're talking state. And see, we got to be careful because there's an important distinction with that. Now, arguably, the founders, and the federal system should be, I'll just use the term role model. That's a weird term to use with the federal government, but a role model or a model for the states to implement on a state level. But we have to be careful because, it's a state deal. Now, our good friend Ryan Haygood says, do you think TOPS increases the cost of education? I would argue it does, absolutely. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter whether it increases it, it's on principle. Should the state be handing tax money to kids? It wasn't available when I graduated. I had to get, other private scholarships. But arguably those schools were subsidized too, so I guess, in the end, it's all the same money.
Yeah. Well, a famous philosopher, Thomas Bastiat, or Frederick Bastiat, said, like in the 1800s, he said, the mission of law is not to oppress persons and plunder them of their property. Even though the law may be acting in a philanthropic spirit, its mission is to protect property. Legal plunder has two roots. One of them, as I've said before, is a human greed. The other is false philanthropy. I would argue that he was right in the 1800s, and today our government is victim of two things. One, human greed. We have politicians who are in office to, promote themselves and fill their pocketbook. And the second is false philanthropy. We elect a lot of politicians, who believe that they're helping the public by all of these feel-good programs like TOPS, when in reality, the truth of the matter is they're hurting us all. It's hurting us worse.
And I would argue that, pretty much the core thinking of the founders, blah, 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 and all that's been going a long time. I mean, way, way before our time. I'd argue it started in the 1800s. Easily. Here's the easy argument. The roots of the IRS was in 1864. It's under Lincoln, a Republican.
Well,
that's basically when the IRS, not as we know it today, but that's basically when it was started, under a Republican.
Well, I'm going to leave you with one more quote from Frederick Bastiat. And this is the one I want you guys to think about. He wrote the book, and if you want to do yourself a favor to understand government even better and what it is that you truly believe, so that whether you believe government is the answer to everything and government should be providing for everybody, if you believe that, this is not going to be the book for you. But if you think that we should have limited government, and you think that both federally and local, state and locally, and your ideals of a government that is limited, the book called The Law, Frederick Bastiat, you can thank me later for getting that book and reading it, because you will have a clear and crystal understanding of what government should be, and you will be able to ask these politicians questions and vet them a whole lot better. One last quote, and then we'll move on to term limits, Rex. I know I'm boring the hell out of you.
No, it's interesting. Everybody else may be bored, but
Yeah. So when plunder becomes a way of life, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Have we in Bossier City, have we authorized it? Have we glorified it? I would say that in Bossier Parish and Bossier City, we've done exactly that. It's us, the electorate. We have glorified legal plunder because we have allowed some elected officials to make a business and a job of being in government. And
right.
hence why we moved to have term limits put in place and
Well,
why they are
okay.
fighting it.
And we're probably preaching to the choir with the vast majority of our viewers, but wait a minute, Duke. A city councilman only gets paid, I don't know, $12,000 a year. I don't even know what the salary is, or pick state rep, or state senator, whatever their salaries are. So, how is somebody making a living out of being a career politician? I mean, how would they enrich themselves as an entrenched incumbent? How would that hinder somebody else from potentially getting in the race?
There is one perfect example for all of Bossier. He is the poster boy for Bossier Parish. And I'm not saying that he's done anything illegal. I'm not saying that at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that he and by default us have allowed legal plunder, which Frederick Bastiat spoke about in the 1800s, to proliferate it. We have enabled an individual to shape our law through legislation to where he's been able to benefit from it. He writes the insurance for all these different organizations and makes a killing.
That is true.
Where are the other elected officials, to say no to all of that?
That is true. And let me see if I can pull this up on the screen here. Let's see. Hold on. I got to click that button and click that button. Yeah, there we go. And so I did share this on Bossier Watch, and I know that's not a good crop of the screen or whatever, but y'all can go, on the Facebook page and click down there and find the article. But I basically took, and I linked, to be nice, linked to the Hayride, of course, but took and kind of restructured that article as written in October of 2022, I think, by our good friend Jeff Sadow. And you can go read it, and he pretty much spells it out. And you're right, Duke. He even says in there it's all legal per se, but is it right?
Well, it's not morally right. It's not. But it's we, I would say us, the citizens of Louisiana, we have glorified this ideal of government. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say this. Last night we had the PEC meeting, and I was really disappointed because it bothered me a lot. And because one person, I've took an extra bit of effort to share a lot of information on a specific subject, and they took no time to do their homework, to study the issue, to make an informed decision, but rather made the decision to take a position to go with what's popular or and not what is the right decision, in my opinion, but what is popular and what will be the most palatable. And I think that's the case with the majority of our politicians. You think about your city councilmen, you think about your police jurors. They don't die on hills. They don't take positions. They don't take stands. They don't say, you know what, this ain't right. I'm not going. I'm not. I'm not going to fight here. I'm just going to go along with the flow. I'm just going to shut up and I'm just going to go along with the flow. And that's the problem with our government. And especially in Louisiana, we keep saying we want to progress and we want to get better, but we're not willing to pay any dues and pay the consequence. We're not willing to do it.
A perfect, easy example. I'll use two quick examples because we've covered this ad nauseum. Is the Cypress District. Philip Rogers, and I like Philip personally. Don't get me wrong, and like Jenny, his wife, they're super nice, but we had to drag Philip kicking and screaming into the finish line to get somebody else appointed. Now, in the end, he did it, but not until he in the Cypress District got literally on his front porch or dock in a dispute over that. That's why I say we had to drag him kicking and screaming. Now, I'll give him credit where credit's due. He was instrumental in getting a new appointee from the Bossier Parish Police Jury, Rodney Madden. And, so now we'll see how that process plays out. But it's like, really?
So yeah, I mean, he is a perfect example. I mean, again, I've got nothing against Philip. I like Philip. I don't think Philip likes me now because of our show. That's fine. That's his problem, because he doesn't like being called out. But the reality is, and the truth is, he said one thing when he ran for office. He got in there and he, went along to get along. And he didn't walk the walk until it showed up on his front doorstep and he got a dose of what citizens were experiencing. And then he wanted to get on board with the citizens. And you know what? The truth of the matter is nobody's going to qualify against him. He's going to run. He's going to get back in. And then you know what? He's going to have amnesia in 6 months.
Well, probably so. Our good friend Ryan Haygood says, what happened with the doc? Well, that's a good question, Ryan. That was not on the agenda today, nor the last meeting. And Gary Weish was a complete ass again, of course. And we'll talk about that some more. But so far, we don't know. I mean, granted, I could text Philip and ask him where they sit with the doc, what's going on, but we haven't done that yet. So anyway.
Yeah. So moving ahead, no, Robert Wright, I'm not talking about you, dadgummit. So moving right along, that takes us to Bossier City. You've got Mayor Tommy Chandler, and you've got the term limits issue. You had Tommy, you had Chris Smith, you had candidates run on term limits for the city of Bossier. They ran to get elected on that. More so Tommy Chandler than anybody else. I would argue and contend that might be the one issue that got him elected. He used it to get elected. And now, he's put an ordinance forward. Up to this point, an ordinance has not been put forward. I understand that, there have been requests from Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds previously on multiple occasions to put an ordinance forward, only to have the city attorney, kill it. And the mayor the city attorney is appointed by the mayor, so Tommy Chandler enabled it. Well, Tommy campaigned on it. So now fast forward to today and the Term Limits Coalition, Colonel Crockett, all the different people got together and we exercised, a provision in the charter to collect signatures and to push that issue. We did it. Now Tommy Chandler doesn't have a choice. So Tommy Chandler puts an ordinance forward. And he got a lot of folks don't realize this. And let me go ahead and put this out here. The city has on retainer a law firm out of New Orleans, and that law firm puts any issues that go to the ballot or anything. They review all that stuff, and they tell them the timelines and give them the instructions and everything of what all they have to do. Well, immediately, Rex, when we submitted the petition, you were there that day when we submitted the petition, the secretary of the council sent that information to that law firm, and that law firm immediately responded back with information regarding, the petition and what the city had to do, all the steps they had to do to put it on the ballot. So then when the council started looking for the way to fight it and to prevent it from happening, because they all want to, as Thomas or Frederick Bastiat said, they wanted to continue legal plunder. They're looking for ways to stop it. So Jacobs comes up with this harebrained idea. Let's get an outside opinion. Well, we know now that there is an outside opinion has been submitted. I mean, he's played coy at the last couple of council meetings about when and what, and he said that, the last council meeting said it'd be this Friday. Well, we have it on good authority that it was received this past Friday, and that it's in the possession of all the councilmen, the mayor, and the city attorney. So
now that begs the question, though. So, we did send a public information request, albeit it was late yesterday. So technically, he legally has 3 days. So we'll give him today, Wednesday, and Thursday to respond to the request, not necessarily fulfill it, because I'm fully expecting to stonewall that. But if
I gotta hold that thought. Don't stop right there. Everybody watching, how do y'all think the city attorney of Bossier will stonewall putting the opinion out to the public? What do you think he will say to prevent the public from being able to have access to the outside opinion that they got?
I know. Pick me.
I pick you. What?
Attorney-client privilege.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. We got a winner.
Yeah, so I don't expect him to fulfill the request. If he does, it'll be a dadgum miracle, or must have fallen on his head or had too much to drink. But here's the real question, though. If all of the city councilmen and X number of people have a copy of this opinion, why haven't they shared it? And I still have the question. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, or jumping the shark in the days of Fonzie. I still have the question about who in the hell is Jacobs talking about going to file all these lawsuits against term limits? I mean, whoever could that be?
I'm dying to know that too, because he apparently has inside information.
Well, if Jacobs, so let's follow the bouncing ball for a second. Tommy supports Jacobs and appointed him. Okay, the council approved him or whatever. If Jacobs were truly at his core in support of term limits, and if Tommy were at his core, then they would welcome those lawsuits, because what those lawsuits would show from certain city councilmen is just how bad and out of touch with their constituents they really are. Let them sue. I mean, because it's over. Game over then. They wouldn't get reelected anyway. Game over.
Well, Rex, they are already hatching a plan. And sure. I'm sorry to report that people are not going to be happy when I tell you the inside ball and kind of what the plan is to thwart term limits in Bossier right now. Because there is a concerted effort. They are conspiring to figure out a way to beat term limits, the will of the people.
And however might they do that, Mr. Lowry?
Well, so back to the question at hand that you had. Jeff Sadow just had a whoops. That's a mistake. Jeff Sadow just had an amazing article out this evening where he kind of talked about it. And in that article, he talks about the ways that they're going to, try to stop term limits, the why they're going to try to stop term limits. And he talks in his article as if the opinion that came back from the attorney was actually supportive of the term limits coalition.
Wait, what? You got to be kidding me.
I'm not kidding you at all.
Mm.
So, you know, it sounds to me, while I haven't seen the opinion, I look forward to ultimately hearing it, whether it be by lawsuit or whatever to get. Maybe Jacobs is right in that case. Maybe we are going to have to sue to get the daggum opinion. But it's a crying shame that the public has to have a lawsuit to be able to see this opinion that they parroted out there for 2 council meetings in a row from an unbiased source that represented the city before. Oh, and then, oh, by the way, the opinion is said to support the term limits coalition a little bit. Well, that said, the back office is, or the rumor on the street or the grapevine or whatever you want to call it is that the council's trying to cut a deal with the mayor.
You don't say.
They're trying to get him to pull his ordinance and or shape his ordinance where they don't recognize the petition by the people, but a new ordinance putting term limits forward that enables all the incumbents to be able to continue to serve, however long they want.
So, there's the old saying that sometimes politics is about compromise. So that begs the question, is this a compromise that the Term Limits Coalition would be willing to accept? Or do we stand on principle?
Well, I don't think it's the Term Limits Coalition's position to be able to say that there is a compromise. And because the people that all signed those petitions, they signed that they wanted retro. They signed that they want everyone who runs for the office of mayor and city council in Bossier City to have for their lives 3 terms max and no more. And Tommy Chandler is right now, I'm told, Rex, trying to make that compromise. He's trying to bend and give in and allow them to be able to, not have that limitation.
Hey, just when I was trying to be a little consistent and saying nice things and find some common ground with Tommy on term limits, you got to go and just blow that right out of the water.
Yeah, but here's the way this is going to go down, guys. So Tommy's going to change his little ordinance to the council to say term limits for 3 terms, and that's it. Well, then it would enable, David Montgomery and all these guys who've already had over 3 terms to have 3 more terms.
And not just Queen David. Let's be fair.
Even in him himself, it would enable. It's a farce. He would be undermining it. And then what he's going to do, they're going to put this forward. They're going to try to ignore the will of the people, and they're going to say, "Oh, we supported term limits." And then what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to force, Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds to have to vote against it because it's not what the people of Bossier City petitioned for. And they're going to say they oppose term limits and we supported term limits.
Well, and look, it's a good political strategy.
It is a good political strategy, but they are wagging the dog of all of you out there in the public.
Yeah.
Now,
so
they think you're too stupid to understand it.
This is where I would encourage, I like Chris Smith and I like Brian Hammonds. I've been a little critical of Chris every now and then, only because I think he is slowly but surely learning that trying to find common or middle ground or whatever you want to call them political circles, that doesn't work. Not when you're dealing with entrenched incumbents who have lots of power and sway and don't want to give it up. So I would encourage Mr. Smith and Mr. Hammonds, if they're listening to the show, that this is going to show everybody what you're really made of. And while you may not have enough votes to win, I would encourage you before this vote, if it happens, that you dig deep into your principles. And I can't tell them whether this is the hill they die on or not. I can just say that I know I would be very disappointed if they choose to go the other way.
Well, Tommy Chandler, I'm going to point out Tommy Chandler. What does it say to the public? Because he's going to parrot out there that I supported term limits. And even Vince Maggio is going to say, I supported term limits. All of them are going to say, oh, I supported term limits.
You know how you win a shouting match, right? You shout louder than the other person. It's pretty simple. And be more pointed and more coherent in your language. Being more pointed and coherent than Tommy and Vince Maggio is very easy. So, it's a war. It's a battle. Look, they've been taking advantage of the public, as some may say, for 20-something years. Did we expect to be able to fix this overnight? No. It's just like the Cypress District deal. Did you know that we got involved in that issue back in 2019? Here it is, 2023. It took us nearly 4 years to start fixing that situation.
That's right. But here you've got Bossier City government, going to hang, opposition to what the public has said and basically shouted that we want. And these guys are giving all of you the middle finger over one word. One word. I don't know. You guys just going to take it? At what point is enough enough?
Again, we would encourage everybody that's watching and everybody that sees this on the replay and all that good stuff, email the city councilman, even if he's not your city councilman. Chris is at large. What's Brian? District 1? Is that right?
I don't remember which.
Anyway, whichever district Brian is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Email them both, even if Brian's not your councilman. And email those councilmen who stand to lose from term limits, retroactive term limits. Email them all. Let them know your position. Their phone calls are listed on the city council website. Pick up the phone and call them. If they don't answer, leave them a voicemail. Let them hear from you that, A, you want Chris and Brian both to stand firm, B, and call Tommy's office too, and B, you want Montgomery, not Chandler, Bubba Don and the rest of them,
Jeffrey
and Darby, to all realize that the people that signed that petition signed a specific petition. 3,000 people that signed it, over 3,000 technically, certified just a hair under 3,000. That's a pretty good percentage of the voting public in Bossier City. And as you've pointed out, we could have got a lot more signatures if we'd had more people walking more time and needed more signatures. But that was the legal threshold that we needed for the signatures. So anyway.
And the truth of the matter is hey, you know what, Councilman, you know what? Say screw the public. Say screw all the citizens of Bossier. You know what? The next petition, you may not like it even more. So
strategy. And look, I'll just say this.
Do what you want to do.
to Queen David and the rest of y'all, let me say this clearly into the camera. The more you resist this, the more we get to make those cute little videos of you guys looking like complete asses and fools. I mean, it's actually better for us if y'all keep resisting the term limits. I mean, as far as the show goes, I get to have fun making the videos and laugh at them. So y'all just keep on resisting the term limits. Just go ahead, whatever.
Yep, absolutely. So, what influence did the Queen have on CBB today? Because I understand you made that meeting.
Yes, I did make that meeting. And again, I don't have the video ready yet. It's still like sitting on my iPad, but I will have it rolled out maybe tomorrow, but over the next couple of days. We were there 2 hours and 15 minutes. The meeting was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. It was a marathon meeting. So
well, wait a minute. All I saw on the agenda was enabling Manchac to hold, all the people around the lakes hostage.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. And a bunch of people were there. It was almost standing room only. There were only a couple of empty chairs in there.
So you're telling me it took 2 hours to debate whether or not they're going to enable Manchac to torture everybody that lives on Cypress and Black Bayou? 2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, I also have to say that a good chunk of that time was taken up by none other than Robert Berry.
No, wait a minute. I thought he wasn't. Is he still on the board?
Well, he was up there to play nicey, and I would argue he was trying to interview for a position with Manchac because Ruttenbuck was there too. Of course, he made a presentation. Look, I got to give Ruttenbuck credit, man. He is like, I probably said this before, but he reminds me of Matthew McConaughey, the actor, in the Cadillac commercials. I mean, it almost makes me want to buy a Cadillac. I almost want to buy a Cadillac from Ruttenbuck. He is that good and that smooth. And I'll have to say, he's got a vested interest in, more business for Manchac. But I got to say, he comes across, whether he means it or not, as sincere. He is, like, ridiculously believable.
Well, let me ask you a question. What business is it that Manchac is seeking to get from the park up there? I mean, we joked the last show and said, oh, they're wanting to manage the park and run the park. What exactly were they trying to do?
Well, right now, kind of the park is in limbo. That's a whole other discussion, I guess. But here's what was discussed at the meeting. But there was some contention about that, and I've got to go back through the video so that I don't misquote. But I'm giving you my quick notes and based off of memory. So, according to Ruttenbuck, and according to Kelly Long, and according to Rodney Madden, and I want to give a shout out to both Rodney and to Kelly, like I said, when we started the show, they did an excellent job of listening to people and conversing with people. That's part of the reason that it took so long. They were actually, even though, Gary the ass was trying to shut everybody down, at least Kelly and Rodney were trying to have a civil conversation with everybody that wanted to get up there and say their piece. So I'll give them that. But here's the deal. So according to Ruttenbuck, according to Kelly, and according to Rodney, the way this is basically going to work is they're going to pay Manchac a retainer fee. I think the number was $2,500 or $2,700 a month. Okay? Property owner needs to build a dock. The dock fee is, I don't know, whatever it is.
Wait a minute. Property owner needs to tear down the dock.
Okay, or whatever the deal is. Whatever the permit is.
Wait a minute. You're freaking telling me you got to have a permit to tear something down?
Yeah, you got to have permits for everything. You got permits to wipe your rear end. All right.
Go ahead.
And our good friend Erwin Dilly was at the meeting, so you can correct me in the comments if I'm not remembering it correctly. But, all right, so Manchac's going to be on retainer. This is basically an at-will basis. In other words, the district or Manchac can terminate the contract at any particular point in time that they want. Okay? And the fees that you would normally pay to tear down your dock or build your seawall or whatever the case is, those right now, and I'm saying that carefully, right now are going to remain the same. So the district is going to be paying Manchac. Manchac is going to be billing against their retainer fee, however many hours it takes. So I'm just for ease of numbers, let's say that it costs that it takes 2 hours for Manchac to go through the process and go out there and do their thing or whatever they're going to do and approve the permit or approve the structure or whatever they're going to do. That at $100 an hour in 2 hours, let's say that's $200. So the Cypress District is paying Manchac. All right. And basically they're just advancing the money like you have a lawyer on retainer. All right. So as of right now, but I'm saying this very carefully, the fee structure was not changed as far as the property owners and dock owners and all that are concerned. Now, you got a comment, or you want me to keep going?
I hate to cut you off, but I'm sitting here thinking I can see the writing on the wall. It's like I don't even need to know what else you're going to say because I know.
I'm just trying right now to report off a memory.
Yeah, y'all all think, oh, 2,700. Well, that don't sound too bad, and then they're going to bill against the 2,700. 2,700 ain't nothing. That's just to make you feel good inside.
So here was, and I started to get up, make comments, and ask a few questions, but I didn't because it was turning into a marathon thing anyway. So, the question I have is, if this process does take longer, so let's say for one particular project, it takes Manchac 8 hours. That's $800. But as a property owner, you're only paying a $450 or $500 fee or whatever it is. Well, the balance of that is coming out of the district's pocket. So here we go on a losing taxpayer dollar situation again. And that segues me to one of the first speakers that was there, our good friend Travis Morehart, the CPA, and the guy that reports to the legislative auditors. The Cypress District basically has no money. He said it.
Really?
Yeah.
But you gotta. Wait a minute. What about the reserve fund for repair to the levees and all that in the event that one of the levees failed?
Oh, they didn't even address that.
And all that water hit Red Chute and potentially could flood. Stockwell, your house, all that area, just all that big bunch of water. I'm just wondering. I mean.
No, they didn't even address that when Morehart was up there. And get this, and you'll see it in the video. They had Morehart stand right there in front of them in the middle, not even over at the podium. Because you remember last time in 2019, I mean, we made fun of him, but he was right when he made the famous quote of, you're telling the bank one thing and you're spending this money the other and you just can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Well, ever since then, they have never let him address the public there or the public ask him any questions. As a matter of fact, when he got through this presentation, he almost immediately, within minutes, left.
Oh, wow. He knew.
Oh, he knew. So the deal is from Morehart, in his own words, I'll play the video and boost the audio and all that, in the next couple of days, but they ain't got no money. They didn't even address the O&M account, operations and maintenance account, for the deal. But we already knew the answer to that because Robert Berry himself told us in one of the meetings a long time ago that they had basically robbed, not in an illegal sense, I'm not saying that, but they had robbed from that fund to make up for some other stuff, and they hadn't been able to put any money back into that fund. Now, Robert Berry himself did get up there and speak. Well, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. Renee Hall brought up the question and the point about the damn contingency fund, this O&M account, operations and maintenance account. So Robert Berry addressed that. He actually said Renee was right. I mean, don't fall out of your chair.
Are you kidding me?
I am very serious. I have the video. It was like Robert Berry, the good guy. He was, Dr. Jekyll and not Mr. Hyde. But anyway.
Is it okay, I wasn't at the meeting. I'm starting to wonder here. Is it possible that Robert Berry if you're saying Robert Berry, the good guy, is it possible that Robert Berry was doing the bidding of board members?
Anything's possible, Duke. Now,
He was just doing what they told him to do?
well, you know, and this is another part. This is going to be great.
Now you know
Because
what?
White,
We are victimizing our viewers. We said just 1 or 2 shows ago that we were going to provide more detail to people that may not be up to speed, and we're talking about stuff that they may not recollect.
well, they may not, and it would be a long show to bring everybody up to speed in one show, but we will release documents and information, and we'll spend some more time in future shows on this. And I just changed the graphic there. So this is why this is important. 65 of the 81 precincts in Bossier Parish are taxed under the Cypress District. You're paying a 1.4 millage.
Yep.
All right. So it's not just the people that live on the lake. It's the businesses. It's not really just the property owners. The businesses that are inside those precincts are paying 1.54 mils to the Cypress District, and they have no money. And Morehart brought up the fact that they still, the tax millage, they can collect for 2024. I hope I'm saying this right, but his video will correct me if I'm not. They can collect for 2024, which they will spend in 2025. But he brought up the point that, hey, this millage is, going to expire in 2024. In other words, you guys are going to have to do something about it. And you ain't got no money, and you got $300,000 balloon payments. We have highlighted that by requesting their P&Ls, not their stupid budget that they post, their actual P&Ls. And, I've been contending that they're pretty much upside down and underwater. Look, I'm not the best at finances. I'm really good at telling people, how to manage their money or add numbers. But I've been screaming this, and we've highlighted this on the show for a long time, that the math ain't really adding up. And especially when you factor in that they're paying the Ayers law firm, $250,000, Robert Berry, $150,000, blah, blah, blah. The math just ain't adding up. So now, circling back, to use that phrase that some of our viewers love, circling back, they're going to be paying Manchac to come in and do this job. And yeah, they're taking it out of landowner fees, and right now they're not adjusting. Although Gary Weish was a little confused on that point. He thought the property owners and the dock owners were paying Manchac's extra fees, and Kelly and Rodney had to correct him. And then even Rodney at the end admitted that they may have to look at, I don't want to misquote him, but basically stated, which we all knew, that they were going to have to reassess some of those fees coming up. So that's it in a nutshell.
So here's the thing I'm wondering, Rex. So it's been a while back that I learned that there was a negotiation going on between Bossier City and the Bossier Parish Police Jury in regards to a unified permits and inspections, whereas Bossier City was going to take over permits and inspections across the whole parish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm wondering, did anybody at this meeting ask the question of Manchac, why are you showing up here wanting to do permits and inspections for just the landowners around the lake when the city and the police jury are negotiating a deal to where Bossier City is going to do all of the parish? So why are you here now? Surely Manchac knows that there's this negotiation going on. So why would Manchac just show up at the Cypress District trying to get their finger in the pot of permits and inspections in one little niche in the Cypress District? Why would they do that?
Well, Duke, Ruttenbuck addressed that very point. Now, he didn't mention the city and the parish deal. He didn't mention that at all. Nobody did. But he did mention that, he's from Bossier. He's on that lake practically every week. He uses that lake. He loves the lake. He's from here. He raised his family here. Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, while it's true that Robert Berry and the Cypress District Board reached out to them, you know, he saw a need there and felt that he could come in and help out. And of course, you know, they're going to get paid to do it, but he was just there to help out and do it for the right reason. They have lots of competition that the Cypress District can look at and talk to,
quote, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it.
We should just end the show right there. Bam, we're done. Drop the mic.
But you think Ruttenbuck? Now, look, I've had people that are longtime friends of mine in Bossier Parish. I mean, they've been around Bossier forever. They're good people, and they've told me, y'all. In fact, they were mad at me because because we call him Ruttenbuck. They're mad at us because we call him Ruttenbuck. That's disrespectful for you to give him a nickname called Ruttenbuck.
Well, he said hi at the last meeting that I went to that he was there. I
mean, they say, you know, he's a good person. He comes from a good family, and he may be. Look, he's a good person. But Rex, my question is, surely Ruttenbuck knows Bossier City is negotiating with the parish to do permits and inspections across the whole parish. He knows that.
Yeah,
he knows that. He's got his hooks into Bossier City. Why would he not disclose that that's probably the best direction for the Cypress District is to have that happen, to have Bossier City doing it, all one big lump deal. But why?
It's all one and the same. Look, but here's the thing, and I've said this before. If I had an engineering company, I'd hire Ruttenbuck. The dude's good.
He is good. I'm not taking that away from him. But
and it would not be to his advantage to disclose that in the Cypress District meeting.
That's right. Because it would take away from his pocket. So
let's be clear.
Ruttenbuck, I'm going to say it. Ruttenbuck is being a hypocrite because he knows that. He did not disclose.
I wouldn't say being a hypocrite.
He's being a hypocrite.
I'm actually going to defend him here a little bit. He was doing his job. It's not his company. He doesn't own it. He's a paid employee. Now, I don't know. Maybe he has some type of ownership. I don't know. It's none of my business. He's doing his job. And I got to tell you, Duke, he does it really well. I was sitting there and wanted to break out in applause after he got through speaking.
I'm not saying that he doesn't. I have to compliment him as well. He does do a good job. When he goes to those council meetings, I mean, he paints this rosy picture.
I want to put him up for an Emmy or Golden Globe or I don't know, whatever. I want to put him up for an award, an Oscar. That's it, an Oscar.
An Oscar, yeah, he should. But damn, don't claim you've grew up here and your moral code bull crap.
In the end, it's about business and money.
It's about your money.
Yeah.
And here's all of y'all watching. Here's your dilemma. He comes from within us. He's from our hometown, and he's claiming the moral code, but yet the priority is about what's best for Manchac, not what's best for the community. Because if what was best for the community, he would have said Bossier City and Bossier Parish have something going that actually would be the best deal probably for the Cypress District, to get in on, to have the permits and inspections all in one place.
Well,
but he ain't saying that.
The bad news for you and for the rest of the people listening that are under the taxing, which includes me, are under the taxing authority of the Cypress District, they approve the motion. So Manchac's in. Now, they did make it crystal clear that it was, basically an at-will basis, so either one of them can cancel the contract for cause for anything, And so
here's my question. Did Rodney Madden, did Madden and did Kelly Long, did they vote for it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's only 3 of them there. Weish, Kelly, and Rodney were the only ones there. Now, they brought up a good point, and so I want to get your take on this. But I had so many questions, and Andy Monica did get up there and ask 2 of my questions. But anyway, so their contention is, well, they got to do something or they'll be 60 days approving anything, and they don't have anybody there, qualified, and an engineer and all that. And I was sitting there thinking, as best I can recall, but I may be wrong, Robert Berry doesn't have an engineering degree either.
Nope.
And he used Bruce Easterly. Why couldn't they send Rodney around or Kelly or, I don't know, whatever? Pay Easterly some. I mean, they're making, and Derek Ford got up there and made a good presentation about this, but basically, in a nutshell, they're making a mountain out of a molehill, as usual. And it's been that way for a long time, and it's only getting worse. Now, my firm belief is, because Rodney's a property owner, he made the point that between he and his dad, they probably have more shoreline than anybody on the lake, so he has to pay his fees and all that too. So I firmly believe that they're trying to turn the ship. They didn't commit, to a 1-year or 2-year deal or whatever with Manchac. So we'll see how this goes. And I'll give them a little credit that, with the turmoil and they were so dependent and didn't have any sort of backup plan with Robert Berry that, they're buzzing around trying to figure out what to do. I'll give them a little bit of credit where credit's due. And I got the feeling from Kelly Long today that she had thought this through thoroughly. She actually did listen to people, and so did Rodney. Gary, not so much. And I think, there is a change happening. Now, in the end, we'll see how good it is and whether they just continue to waste more money. But they have no money if the dam's, Robert Berry pointed out, the dam's 46, 47, 48 years old. It has like a 50-year lifespan, and that's with regular maintenance. It ain't really been maintained as much. They've had some inspections, I guess, or whatever. So they're going to have to do something to turn the ship, because if the dam breaks, they're going to be in a pickle.
And what do? You hire in Manchac? Good grief. I don't know. I'm
wait
sorry.
a minute. It's better than that. They had already hired Manchac before the meeting.
Why do you know that? How do you know that?
Because Ruttenbuck said that he's dealt with 12 different calls in the last few weeks. He's been taking calls and talking to people, but he was working for free.
Oh, bull crap.
Because Andy Monica asked him, said, well, how is he doing this? And, when did they hire Manchac? I kid you not.
And they said?
And they said he's been working for free. And so is Robert Berry, by the way. Robert Berry's just being so helpful to Rodney and so helpful to Manchac and so helpful to the board to ease this transition. And apparently he's doing it, or he's trying to cover his tracks. So that was the crux, the summary, Rex's summary of the meeting.
I'm just wondering, we're holding 80 plus people watching the show. Y'all are hearing Rex report on this. I'm wondering what y'all think, because I got to tell you, I'm hearing a lot of smoke right here. That's what I hear. I'm sorry, Rex. I'm just saying, I think it's all bullshit. I'm sorry. I don't
disagree with you.
We may lose, 80 people, or maybe 10 people that'll watch because I said bullshit, but I'm just saying it's bullshit.
That's our showing, so we want.
Ruttenbuck and Manchac, they just marched them in there. Come on, Madden. Dang, you going to bring Manchac in here?
Wait, here's the best thing. They literally wouldn't answer who invited the vampire through the door. Weish cut them off. Andy asked. Andy Monica asked. If I remember correctly, I think it was Andy asked.
No doubt Weich cut it off. Didn't want any
business. So I got the greatest sound bites ever for Gary Weish. He's going to have a challenge being reappointed in his next go round?
He's Gary White. I mean, he's one of the gods of Bossier. I mean,
Well,
look,
if
guys,
nothing else, we're going to get to laugh at him, and the viewers
city,
are quite a bit when I get through making a video of him.
look, Gary White is appointed by the town of Benton, and he doesn't even live in the town of Benton. He's an old time Bossier person. He's been in Bossier forever. And, you know, he thinks he owns Bossier, like some people in Bossier. And he doesn't think that he has to answer to all of y'all, and all of y'all are his subjects. He is that arrogant. And I mean, I really didn't know the man, but after a couple of experiences at the Cypress District meetings, I can tell you he does not care about all of y'all out there in the public. He
No, he
he
doesn't.
snubs his nose. He's arrogant, and he thinks he's better than all of y'all, which is the way a lot of those folks up there are.
Well, I was a little hesitant whether I was going, not going, blah blah blah, and I'm glad I went because we got it on video again. Now, I want to address Christopher Thomas Baker's question. He says, "Are y'all gonna post the video?" Sorry, late to the party. So just to remind everybody, I will be posting the whole meeting video like I usually do, but it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and so I mean it'll take me 20 minutes to copy it from my iPad over to my computer just to get that part done. Not to mention transcribing it and all that other cute stuff and boosting the audio because their audio is terrible in there, and that's a whole other issue. So yes, the video will get posted, but it may be tomorrow or the next day. Wednesday or Thursday before I get it posted.
This whole thing goes back to, and I think Manchac and Bossier City, public-private partnership. The Republican Party heralded that crap a long time ago. And I would contend that hasn't worked out the way that it should, because I would say that there's too much, uh, inside ball that the public doesn't, get to know about. I mean, I'll say this, back when the ice storm hit in Bossier City, Manchac billed for overtime. How were they able to bill for overtime when they were contract employees, for the city of Bossier? How were they able to do that?
Good question.
I'm wondering, did the Chandler administration, did they not have knowledge of that? Because look, we did a public information request and we got the invoices where they billed and where they were paid. I'm just wondering, is Manchac, doing this deal in the Cypress District? Are they trying to make an inroad to be the people to say, hey, we do it for the Cypress District. We should be able to do the permits and inspection for all you guys out there in plain dealing. We're going to come out there and we're going to inspect your driveway, or we're going to inspect your sprinkler system or whatever. And all y'all out in Halton, hey, we're going to come out, we're going to inspect, your chicken coop. Hey, all y'all down there in Elm Grove, we're going to come down there and we're going to inspect your cow fences. All y'all in Benton, we're going to come out there and we're going to inspect your hayfield. I mean, I'm just wondering, everybody in Bossier Parish, at what what point are you going to have enough of Manchac being in your business? I mean,
It's a valid question.
Are they going to come in and inspect whether you've dressed your bed appropriately, you've made it up every morning? Is how much government are you going to allow to infringe on your life? Are you limited government, or are you, what? Let government decide what time I get up, what time I go to bed. Let's let government decide it all. Let's let Ruttenbuck decide what you're going to wear as you exit your house today, or what you're going to eat tomorrow night. Why don't y'all just defer all your decisions in life to Manchac? Because that's where you're heading.
I can't disagree with you on that at all.
Legal plunder, and you all are enabling it. And either you're opposed to it or you're in favor of it. Right. You've got to decide that question.
Now, I also want to give a couple of shout outs because there were, like I said, it was an almost standing room only meeting. Erwin Dilly was there. He got up, made some very valid comments, and was engaged with a pretty good dialogue with, I think, with both Kelly and with Rodney. And we had quite a few folks in there that, obviously know us, have seen the show or watched it at least a few times. And I want to give them a shout out because they thanked us for what we do in putting the show out there. And
Who did that?
I actually had several people. Now, granted, we were kind of in good territory up there at the Cypress District because we've been on them so much, but there were actually multiple people that literally thanked us for what we do in providing the show. So what I want to say is it was very encouraging to see that many people at that particular meeting. Now, obviously, they were talking about Manchac, potential fees going up, all sorts of things, and so that gets in people's pocket too. But the last 2 or 3 meetings, there have been quite a few people there. So shout out to everybody that was attending that meeting. I wish we could get that many people at every city council meeting.
Or police jury meeting.
Or police jury meeting. They're
I mean,
not off our radar yet. They're very much on our radar.
Yeah. Look, this is your government. We all created this government. It's ours. It's our responsibility to reel it in. If we feel that it is being abusive or tyrannical, it's all of each of ours responsibility to reel it in. And it seems like there's more people recently, but it's, getting involved and trying to reel it in. But it's our lack of activity that has enabled it to get out of control in the first place.
You're right.
And
Our apathy.
our apathy. Yeah.
I think that's one of the quotes we used to have in the intro that you made. Our apathy. Our apathetic. Don't be apathetic. Something to that.
Hey, to end the show, one last discussion.
Okay.
And it's the last thing in our notes. And this is going to get off all that because we've been beating that horse dead. I mean, look, either people are going to get involved and do something or they're not. I mean, you know what? And if it all falls apart, y'all all know who to blame. Grab the closest mirror. But is Gaddy going to run or not?
Well, let me put this up here in our list. So, there we go. Let me resize that down. Okay. So, what many people don't realize is Gaddy and I talk quite frequently. I mean, it depends, though. If it's an issue that's important to him.
Robert Wright says unequivocally Ryan Gaddy is not running.
Well, Robert, riddle me this. How come Gaddy's been taking my temperature for a month and a half, 2 months now in our phone calls? And I enjoy the phone calls. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to disclose what we talk about. And they're, I mean, sometimes we go at it. Sometimes we agree on stuff. But riddle me this, Batman. Why is he taking my temperature, of all people? Why is he regurgitating the insurance posts? He's not, I mean, for a while he was thinking about, I think, maybe running for insurance commissioner. That was no secret. I don't think he's going to do that anymore. I'm not saying he's going to run maybe this cycle, but there is a reason that he's doing that. Gaddy is very, very smart and very calculating, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. He's politically calculating. So, I don't know. I say at some point he is. He can't stand it.
Well, look, there was a Ryan Gaddy sighting last night.
Whoa. It's like sighting Batman.
He showed up to the Republican Parish Executive Committee meeting. I haven't seen him. He has not been.
Wait a minute.
He has not been to an RPEC meeting since you videoed that insurance meeting. He's not been to one.
But no, he's not running. He just randomly decided, I'm bored tonight. I think I'll go to a PEC meeting.
So look, let's broach this subject this way. The rumor mill is that there's 2 potential paths for Ryan Gaddy here. There's two different scenarios.
Okay.
One is that he's going to get into the Senate race against Robert Mills and Adam Bass.
Maybe so.
And
that's
look,
a possibility.
Look, I will acknowledge yesterday I was polled by somebody out of South Louisiana, and it was on that Senate race. They called my mobile number, and
Oh, you
they
got
said
it too.
I did, and they said, and a lot of folks may have. They said, "Hey," they said, "if the race for Senate were held tomorrow between Robert Mills, Adam Bass, and Ryan Gaddy, who would you support?" I just died laughing.
Imagine that.
and and I said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Okay, fair enough, undecided." And
Mhm.
then he moves to the next question. He said, "Well, what if I told you that one candidate, was pro-life and supported legislation for this blah 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 blah?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. That might make me want to support him." And anyway, you get to the end of the poll, and
Wait, let me let me cut you off for a second. Our friend Ryan Haygood, who is good friends with Ryan Gaddy also, he says, "Who have y'all been talking to? This isn't happening." Ryan, I've been talking to Ryan. Now, he hasn't told me he's running for anything, but it's not hard to read between the lines that it's driving him mad. Okay, sorry to cut you off, Duke.
oh, that's okay. But look, the end of the poll ends up talking about insurance. Insurance, which was the last thing from the last PEC meeting from a long time ago. And one of the rumors was that Ryan was going to jump into the insurance race.
Yeah.
And you know, if you go back to my screen and you look, let's see, where's that? The insurance commissioner race and who's qualified. There's only two names in there, and I want to ask all of y'all watching. You got Tim Temple and Rich Weaver. Do y'all know either one of those? Have you ever heard of those names? No, you haven't.
Hmm. Yeah, could be interesting.
I'm just saying, I think that race is wide open for somebody, and a Ryan Gaddy who obviously is educated on insurance could probably jump in that race and be competitive. I
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
look, I said before, and I said at the PEC meeting, and I'll stand behind it, between Gaddy and Seaball, and Miss Ann, you may have a connection fit right here on the show. But at the end of that meeting, when Gaddy was there, most of us on the PEC, or as far as the PEC members, we mostly agreed with Gaddy. I would say, not that Gaddy is right on insurance, but on balance, he's definitely more right than Seaball's position on the insurance is. I'll give him that.
Well, I'm going to say across the board, everybody, Republicans, Democrats, I mean, everybody needs to have some introspection on what you believe in government. I mean, I think we all have lost sight on what government is about, what its purpose is, what it's supposed to do. I think we need to all take a step back and we need to read a little bit and we need to study and we need to have some introspection on what's right and what's wrong because I think we've lost our way. I truly believe that when we're willing to just say, you know what, screw it, election integrity. I'm just going to say, hey, there wasn't no fraud in 2020. I'm just going to grow with the crowd because it's too much of an effort to have to study why go into this machine or that machine or is there a flaw or is there not. It's too much trouble to do that. So I'm just going to vote with what the majority, the popular opinion is, and not do any work. We've lost our way.
Just follow the lemmings right off
We
the cliff.
follow, yeah, exactly. And I think we're in bad shape. And people need to take some ownership in this, and you need to do your homework. I mean, we're talking about our way of life. We're talking about our freedom here. And a
Yeah.
lot of you're just willing to say, "Oh, okay, tomorrow's another day. I'll just go do my thing tomorrow, and whatever happens, happens. I don't care." I'll see you pushing your wheelbarrow tomorrow, the next day. I, I'll be racing you with your wheelbarrow. Sorry, guys. I mean, Bull crap. I don't want that, Rex. I don't want that.
I don't want it either, but look, everybody has their lane or position in life. And for the last 3 years, our lane and our position has been to do this show and put this information out there. And, you know, we've got lots of people that watch the show. We've had literally hundreds of thousands of views overall. You know, I mean, we still got 70-something people watching, and we're just jabbering right now on principle and about Ryan Gaddy. It's like Beetlejuice. I guess he'll pop up in the comments here in a minute if we keep saying his name. But anyway, everybody's got their lane, and while we don't attend that many of the meetings, I went to the Cypress meeting really to just get the sound bites against Gary Weish, you know, and if Barry was there, and anyway. And so we have to pick and choose our battles, but our role right now, or for the last 3 years, going on nearly 4 seasons coming up, has been this show and just getting the information out there. I mean, I remember when we first started, I think we hit 12 people and we were like jumping through the roof.
Yeah.
And now we're holding 70 people for nearly 2 hours. And if it does nothing else, like we say over and over, you don't have to agree with us. Every now and then we get something wrong. We're mostly right. But at least we hope it makes you think.
That is totally what I want. I want people to think. And Rex, I want to challenge all of you 70 people out there to just take a little bit of time and read. Cut off social media, cut it off. Read a little bit of Frederick Bastiat, The Law. Reflect on what you believe in government. Just read it. If you just read it, I think it might end up being the most consequential thing in your life regarding government and what government should be. And you know, you will see the flaw in your thought, and you will see the flaw in current government, and you will see what, you know, government should be and the direction it needs to go and what you need to do. I challenge you to do that.
I tell you what, after the show, I'm going to get the audiobook. How about that? That way
Do
I
it
can listen in my truck. All right. For all of you that are out there, we appreciate you watching. You know, it's kind of been a relatively slow political week so far, so we appreciate everybody that's joined us. Y'all know the drill. If you got something you need to send to us and remain anonymous, make a free Proton Mail account. Send an email to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. Don't put any identifying information in that email. We do check those. Been a little slow on the Proton Mail front lately. We're going to continue hammering the city council, the police jury, the Cypress district. We're going to keep an eye on them. Keep doing the things that we do. And
next Tuesday will be, it'll be wide open because we will know whether or not Tommy Chandler is going to hold them or he's going to fold them. Either he's going to hold the line or he's going to fold to David Montgomery. It's
sounds
one
like
of the two.
Sounds like a Kenny Rogers song. Got to know when to hold them.
Yeah, he's going to do one or the other. And indications are that he's already made plans to fold them.
We'll see. Won't it be interesting? All right. Same time next week. What do you say, Mr. Lowry?
Have a good night. Thank you all for watching.
All right. We're out of here.